welcome into the Daily Deep Cut brought to you by the Beat Sessions. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Hope you're all having a fantastic Friday. We made it to the end of the week. The weekend is upon us. It's a holiday weekend too, pretty much. So hope you all have some fun plans for Saturday and Sunday. You get to see family and friends, do some stuff you love. I wish that for all of you. I wish you very happy holidays, no matter what you celebrate. Nothing but love here at the Beat Sessions for all of you, and appreciate you all tuning in. We got a big one to close out this 90s alternative music week, and it kind of started off on a more, I guess, introspective kind of angle, and now here we are finishing up with Down Rodeo by Rage Against the Machine. This is my favorite Rage Against the Machine song. I would probably argue that this is the best song in their catalog. Die on That Molehill. I absolutely love this track from the moment I heard it, from the moment I heard those just roaring, chugging guitars come in, and that tone is unlike anything else that I've ever heard in my entire life. Tom Morello doing what he does, just such an incredible artist. Obviously, you have Zach, you have Tim, you have Brad, all contributing, doing their thing as well. This band wouldn't be what it is without all four of these guys coming together, not just with their musical abilities, but with their hearts and souls, with their mindsets, with their philosophies and their insights and their feelings about the world. This is a band that, I mean, especially you think about the time and place where they were at in the 90s. And I was a kid, but I do remember it being a very, it was a time of people were flourishing. People were doing well. The 90s were great for the most part for a number of people. But the 90s also highlight a number of disparities, a number of inequities that exist within our country and still to this day. And what I loved about Rage Against the Machine, especially being young, getting into punk, getting into these topics of conversation and having opinions, forming those opinions at a young age. I think that's one of the most exciting things about growing up and getting older. Through your life, your education, your experience, whatever it might be, you gain understanding and perspective. You develop your own opinions and insights into things. And so having Rage Against the Machine there as a youth was certainly as a massive influence, not just sonically and not just the fact that there was no one else out there like them musically, but also lyrically. I don't think that anybody in the 90s would come close to touching what Zach De La Rocha wrote about. Not the only political writer out there, and I feel like it's such an interesting topic when you talk about hip hop. You talk about its origins and the need for social commentary there, the need for those artists to speak out about the problems that they see in their communities and the cause and effect of those issues. And there's certainly different angles. You can certainly point the finger at who's responsible, for those inequities, because the American government and I don't even know if it's like a blind caste system that exists in America. I feel like it's very obvious. I mean, it's certainly not like anything that exists in India with the Hindu society, but there no doubt is a caste system in this country that dictates a lot of our behavior, a lot of how we act, a lot of who we interact with. And so it's what I love about this band is highlighting those issues, making people aware of it. And Rage is a band that it shouldn't be that much fun listening to Rage Against the Machine. I think that's the the big paradox about their music is that they deliver their fire, their intensity, their passion. They open up your eyes, but they do it in a way that's so groovy and so funky and so fresh that even though it's important to take time to absorb what you're listening to, what you're hearing. There's also nothing wrong, I think, with bobbing your head to those grooves and just feeling the music from time to time, listening to Zach and his flow, because I mean that's just another one of those things about their music, about his style in particular, the way that he's putting together words, the intensity of the words that he's putting together, but also the flow that's there, the rhythmic patterns, everything that he has done with his verbiage is so impressive. This is a time and place where rap rock has become a thing, and I hate it as a title. I don't even think it's a real genre that exists. I think that there's a lot of rock and roll outfits out there that have adopted the style, incorporated it into their music, and it didn't start in the 90s. There was plenty of musicians that in the rock and roll world, in the pop world, you want to throw down just some really high speed, rapid fire lyrics. In a lot of ways, you could classify that as hip hop, or as at least being influenced by it. So not the kings of rap rock. I think it's a term that they always chided as well. It's like nah, don't box us in there with the likes of at that point Limp Bizkit, Kid Rock. I love Korn. I think a lot of people lumped Korn into that category unfairly. What I would say about Korn and Rage Against the Machine is there's so much funk that drives the sounds of both bands, and I think that that's what makes their music so fun and so fresh, and in a lot of ways easy to listen to. It is easy on the ears. It's got mass appeal in that regard. It's a song like Down Rodeo especially, there's so much coming at you that is unfamiliar, that feels outside the realm of what you're used to encountering when it comes to rock and roll music, let's just say, or even hip hop for that matter. But there's also this element of the music being grounded in its in its traditions, built on the foundations of what came before, and it's not just musicians either. You think about this band, you think about all the people that are mentioned in their music. Franz Fanon is one that's mentioned in A Year of the Boomerang. Looking at Down Rodeo, find the lyrics here. Fred Hampton is another one, Black Panther, that killed in an FBI raid, unfortunately. And he's mentioned in this particular song. There's so many references to the individuals that inspired these guys and why they chose to make music. And so that was always fun for me too, is going back, and especially as the internet developed, is you had more access to information about these individuals. Oftentimes, like I remember being a kid and trying to look like a guy like Fred Hampton, trying to look him up in a library in middle school in the 90s. Good luck. I mean, like there wasn't a book in that library that that the school district was going to take a risk about leaving in that shelf, about putting it in there for people to find that information. And so you had Rage Against the Machine, especially the liner notes of this record. It's so cool to see the list of books that is there. We were talking about Noam Chomsky yesterday. That book is listed on there. Their takes on mass media, Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. Just a number of impressive books. I think Kafka's on there. It's really just kind of like a cool starting point for young people, for people listening to this band and getting into a new sound. And so I want to jump into the song here, get into this thing. This is a track that, obviously their music very politically driven and focused on a number of different topics, but this particular song I really feel like focuses on that caste system in America, which really is driven by racial inequities in this country. This is a song that right out from the gate, I'm rolling down Rodeo with the shotgun, Rodeo Drive, that image of opulence, that image of wealth. Not everybody gets to just go shop on Rodeo Drive on a daily basis. And so immediately you have this song and this lyric that has created, the topic of conversation, and immediately thrown out this image that, I think there are very few things in America that highlight that discrepancy, that highlight the caste system. And my favorite thing is you look you look at the definition of caste, and I really like this. So I'm looking at Wikipedia right here. I really like the third thing that it says. It says a caste system is a fixed social group into which an individual is born with a particular system of social stratification. Within such a system, individuals are expected to marry exclusively within the same caste, follow lifestyles often linked to a particular occupation. We'll get into that one as well, too, because I think it's interesting. Hold a ritual status observed within a hierarchy, and interact with others based on cultural notions of exclusion. And that's the big one, with certain castes considered as either more pure or more polluted than others. I think that is the biggest one as far as what we see with that issue in America today. And so he goes on to say, these people ain't seen a brown-skinned man since their grandparents bought one. Holy crap. Like, that might be one of the hardest lines delivered ever, period, in modern music. But I would say in the 90s, I remember the first time I heard that. And then I also remember the first time my parents heard that. And they're like, what in the hell are you listening to? And I let them listen to the song. And, you know, we were kind of throwing around books I was getting into, ideas. And my parents are really cool people. And while they may have expressed a slight bit of concern for my newfound interest in these type of topics, they certainly were supportive. And, you know, there were for the first people that would take me to a bookstore to find the information, to find the literature that I was looking for. And I appreciate that for them. Despite our disagreements, they've always been very open-minded and very cool. And I think that is of the utmost importance when it comes to, you know, not just raising children, but maintaining relationships. I feel this country is in a place where, you know, in the last 5 years especially, we've gotten to a spot where a number of individuals, oh, you disagree with me? You're not my friend anymore. And it's really childish and silly. And more than anything, there aren't any discussions that happen. There aren't any debates that go down, and nothing really ever gets solved. You just find yourself disagreeing and hating. And it's no good. It doesn't get us anywhere. And so he repeats that line and gets into this first verse here. Banging this bolo tie on this solo flight, can't fight alone. Funk the track, my verbs slide like the Family Stone. And they are. And I love that reference there to Sly and the Family Stone. Then Pen Devils set the stage for the war at home, locked without a wage. You're standing in the drop zone. Pen Devils, that's an excellent reference. I'd say that, you know, it's interesting too, because I feel like Pen Devil is something that, in this particular case, we're talking about legislatures, we're talking about people that write the laws, that make policy. They are the Pen Devils. But also, I feel like, you know, out of context, that term could be applied to a guy like Zach. Like, he is a Pen Devil. Like, he is the one stirring the pot, you know, causing commotion, making people aware of things that, you know, the powers that be might not want them to be aware of. And so while Pen Devil in this particular instance does not apply to Zach, I think it's a phenomenal term. I think it's really dope. And I think that contextually you could use it to talk about a number of different things. The clocker's born, staring at an empty plate. Mama's torn hands cover her sucking face. We hungry but them belly full. Bob Marley reference there. And again, here we're getting into the idea, you know, of that structure, of that caste system, of so many people being born into a situation, in a position where there's very little that they can do to work their way out of it. And it just sucks. It just sucks, the idea of being, you know, immediately handcuffed from birth and having to work. I mean, here's the thing. Some people are going to have to work harder than others. I will say that, like, life just is what it is. But there's also this situation where, you know, so many individuals are stuck dealing with barriers that are arbitrary, they're racist, and, you know, and they really limit the ability for these people to pursue happiness, to pursue a life that is worthwhile and fulfilling. The structure is set, you never change it with a ballot pull. What I love about this song, the intensity of the lyrics, there certainly is reference to, I guess there's violent imagery, no doubt, but I think the idea of that imagery isn't necessarily to actually be violent. It is to it is to highlight the fact that in this particular line, especially, I've become a big believer in that. I still vote, but I'm so cynical about voting. I was so cynical about going to the ballot last month just because of where we're at with the system, with technology, I'm a big believer that early voting is not necessarily the greatest thing in the world. I think that it has potential, but I think like most things, it's sloppy. It's in its bureaucratic nature. It's so easy for it to be manipulated. There's so many individuals that are involved with the process that, you get numbers of different ballots that go out. I mean, it's just absolutely a mess. I'm not a fan of that. I do believe that Election Day should be a holiday. I think it should be a paid federal holiday for everybody. We should all have the right to relax, do our civic duty, and sit down with our families and watch the outcome, whether it works in our favor or not. I think that for all the celebration that gets thrown at us about voting, it really doesn't seem to feel like the powers that be are that interested in any of us really taking advantage of that right. And so that's just kind of my 2 cents on that. It's unfortunate. I wish I didn't feel that way. I wish I wasn't so cynical about our election system. But it's like the corruption that's there. It's just really frustrating. In the ruins, there's a network for the toxic rock, schoolyard to precinct, suburb to the project block. That to me, toxic rock, it's got to be crack. I'm not sure what exactly the interpretation is on there, but when I read that, anytime I've listened to this song, the trajectory of it, and talking about the introduction of those substances into black communities and the way it decimated those populations and the way it just completely undid them. Schoolyard to precinct, suburb to the project block. Really, like the verbiage there, he goes, in the ruins, there's a network for the toxic rock, schoolyard to precinct, suburb to the project block. Like I'm no I'm no singer. I don't have that flow, but it's so good when you hear it on album, when you hear Zach deliver it, and it's just the power in his voice, the intensity and the cadence there is a big part of what makes those lines sit there and just stir in you and just cause you to basically pay attention. Like you just cannot ignore. Bosses rode south for new flesh and a factory floor. The remains left chained to a powder war. And again, that powder war, I can't see what else that is besides what we were talking about. So now I'm rolling down Rodeo with the shotgun. These people ain't seen a brown-skinned man since their grandparents bought one. It goes back to that refrain. And then my favorite part of the song, talking about his rhyming and his spitting, and I'll try to do this just for example's sake. Most of you have probably heard this, but for those of you who haven't, he goes, yeah, bear witness to the sickest shot while suckers get romantic. They ain't got to send us camping like they did my man Fred Hampton. Still we lamping, still clocking dirt for our sweat. A ballad's dead, so a bullet's what I get. And again, that reference to ballots, the reference to the voting system, and that violent imagery, that idea that, hey man, like this isn't doing it. Like this is not getting us to where we need to be. You keep saying it does, but it's not getting us there. 1,000 years, they had the tools. We should be taking them. Fuck the G-Ride. I want the machines that are making them. Your G-Ride, the image of opulence, the image of wealth there. And I love that. Zach is like, nah, man, like we don't want nice things. Like we want the power, the control of the things that build those nice things so that we can actually build practical, functional things for people, for civilization, so that we can not be just this whorish country in the military industrial complex. Our target's straight with a room full of armed pawns to off the kings on the west side of dawn. Can't waste a day when the night brings a hearse. Gets back, and I just this line right here, I skipped it over in the first part, but they lead in with it. Can't waste a day when the night brings a hearse. Make a move and plead the fifth because you can't plead the first. That might be the dopest line of the 90s, period. I definitely think it's the best Rage Against the Machine line, but that line, make a move and plead the fifth because you can't plead the first. There is a lot of power in that statement right there, and I think I don't really need to explain it. If you if you know your civics, you know what the first does, you know what the fifth does. The first allows you to be here to do this, and the fifth is your right to shut the hell up and not say anything. And oftentimes there are situations, unfortunately, where it is appropriate and it is good to have that right, but in this particular context, it is not the right that people want to be exercising. They want to be able to exercise that First Amendment right. I was watching Ronnie Chang the other night, and his special Love to Hate It, and he talks about he goes on this little diatribe where he's like, I love doing comedy in America. He's like, I get to just like stand up here and say fuck U.S. taxes, all this stuff. He's like, you know what happens when I do that in Malaysia? I go to jail. And so I feel it's a great joke. I love the bit, and I love, talking about the violent imagery. I think that Rage Against the Machine, Zach in particular, chose to take it to that extreme because it's still, at the end of the day, you can in America. There's that idea of being here and being able to express yourself, and it's still a double-edged sword. It's still difficult, especially in the age of social media, coming off of cancel culture, seeing everything that we've seen in the last 5 years in particular. It isn't necessarily the easiest thing or the safest thing or the most comfortable thing to exercise that First Amendment right, but at least we still have that option. At least our lives aren't dictated by some regime, and if we do say something like this, we don't end up in a prison without an explanation. That that there is something to be said to a degree about that. Song finishes, the rungs torn from the ladder. I love that line as well too, as far as what this song is about. People trying to overcome that caste system, people trying to climb out of their position in life to find something better. And there's just the powers that be there tearing rungs from the ladder, making it impossible to climb up. And another great image there and a great song. The rungs torn from the ladder can't reach the tumor. One God, one market, one truth, one consumer. Really, really good. And then it goes on, just a quiet, peaceful dance. Just a quiet, peaceful dance. The quiet, peaceful dance. I think to a degree there's a reference to some type of Native American celebration there. Obviously, given their music, People of the Sun, the natives are a group of people that Zach has defended a lot over the years, written about a lot over the years, and so I think he's alluding to that, but also that quiet, peaceful dance is really just kind of like an ironic and kind of cynical way, satirical way of looking at the lives that these people that he just talked about are living. Just a quiet, peaceful dance for the things we'll never have. And it's not even just the material things. It's the things that every human being has a right to. In my opinion, the right to pursue happiness, the right to be treated with decency, with respect for who you are, the right to be able to go out into the world and to be able to do your thing peacefully. And you guys know me, as long as you don't mess with children and as long as you don't raise my taxes, I don't really care what you do. That's your business. And I think most people struggle these days to stay in their lane and to stay focused on themselves. I feel like too many people are worried about what's going on around them rather than just honing in on their own shit and trying to fix that and trying to manage that. But I do think that it is interesting. There's a lot of people out there that I feel that they come from a good place, but oftentimes their perspective and maybe their reasoning gets skewed a little bit. Especially, I'll just say it. There's a lot of like hoity-toity liberal white people that I've encountered in the last 4 years. They're the ones that have been so frustrating that they want to be warriors. They want to be, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the term right now, but like actively like verbalizing that, I think it's a demonstration that you are being fake. Like I think that if you have to verbalize that kind of stuff, there's no authenticity there. And it goes back to what I was saying as far as you lead your life by example. You treat people how you want to be treated, and just constantly show that dignity and respect to every individual you counter. And you're never gonna always have that reciprocated, but know that those are the moments. That's the time when people will be watching, and they'll be watching how you respond. Shit, they'll probably even be filming it on their phone. Unfortunately, it's the day and age that we live in. But I think that in fighting the good fight, it's important to remember to keep your head. That's what I love about music. That's what I love about mediums like this, is that, we all have a lot of pent up frustration and rage, right? But there are definitely constructive, productive ways to release that energy, to release that angst and that frustration. And that's what has always been so great about this band, is that we all have them as a resource to go to throw on, to rock out to vent those frustrations, to contemplate them, and to hopefully, one day go out there and not even one day, every day, go out there and exercise common decency, and hopefully one day that gets us to where that we want to be. Unfortunately, there probably won't be any Rage Against the Machines there, but I think that these guys and any other aspiring artists out there would probably take it if they knew that it meant the best for the world. So that is your track of the day, your daily deep cut to close out this week of 90s alternative music. I hope you enjoyed this 5-day journey with me, lining stuff up for next week, and trying to get adjusted to that time frame in the morning. I don't know what it is. I'm just not having a good time getting up in the morning and getting going. It's cold. It's dark. I'm ready for the summer already. Get me there. You guys enjoy your weekend. Happy holidays to y'all. We'll see you on Monday for the next set of Daily Deep Cuts. Take it easy.